Well, Barbados is a special island. It's the jewel on the end of the necklace of the islands of the Great and the Lesser Antilles. And so they stick out a few miles farther into the Atlantic Ocean. So the good news is they're a little farther away from the other islands. The bad news is they're probably the first ones that get hit by storms coming by way of the Atlantic. And they also have some unique areas in that they have to rely on just the inshore reefs for ability to get the wonderful fish and seafood that they all love to eat and enjoy there. So it's an important problem that needs to be expanded into that island nation. I know many of the people, especially the fishermen, know the plight of lionfish and less coral and want to have less lionfish and more coral. So hopefully projects there will get legs. They started a few years ago with some first steps, and now it's time to actually make them happen.
Belize Research Institute has been doing some coral restoration projects.
They do all of the scientific research in the scientific zone. They test for coral growth as well as water quality and other aspects of the reef.
I'm Fatima Patel, and I'm a teacher at Queen's College. I've been at Queen's College for about 15 years now, and I teach geography and environmental science.
How do I describe a class with Miss Patel? Miss Patel really knows how to speak to students and have them argue amongst themselves to find the best answer to a particular issue. No zones showed to be of very good quality at all. Even in terms of comparing them among themselves, they really didn't have very much difference. They were mostly dead.
I disagree. Okay? I don't know what. I haven't been to a reef that's, 100% healthy, so I can't say it. It was my first day scuba diving, but the recreational zone was the best to me.
There is some subjectivity, and different students got different results depending on which photograph they chose. So we took 5 quadrat samples, but then they analyzed only 3 of them. So basically you're basing your analysis on 3 meters square of the coral bed. So it's going to be somewhat subjective.
My name is Rosalind Wharton. We did 2 SBAs. They were all based off of Folkestone Marine Park and Reserve.
My name is John Hunt. I'm a recent graduate of Queen's College. An SBA is a school-based assessment. It's the internal assessment component of the Caribbean Examinations Council's exams, and they account for a certain percentage of your overall grade in the exam. So for environmental science, which is a CAPE exam, Caribbean Advanced Proficiency exam, it accounts for, I think, about 30% of your overall grade.
They chose Folkestone because it was a marine park to start with. They would have done 4 areas, 3 on the inside of Folkestone and 1 on the outside. And they would have wanted to see the link with the runoff water, the differences, the comparisons between the inside and the outside of the marine park, the amount of fish species, corals, everything they would have wanted to see. And it was much easier having them on the coral reef here at Folkestone where they could relate to than seeing it in books and having to guesstimate it.
Within geography and environmental science, there's a range of topics, really. You could be looking at development disparities in a region, or you could be looking at the quality of coral reefs in an area. So there's it's quite a wide choice. And then out of that, now we decide on a topic and we work with it. Obviously, I will choose topics that I'm interested in, because if I have to sit down and mark and give feedback on how many hundreds of these SBAs, I am going to choose something that I like. And I try to find something too, of course, that the students will find interesting as well, that they will enjoy. For me, what's very important is the fieldwork aspect of it, right? I want to make sure that the students go into the field and have fun and discover. So I try to find something that they would like. So the idea of going snorkeling happened one day when I was at Belize, I think it was, talking to Susan Mahon, and we were discussing the coral reefs. And then I thought, hold on, there's Folkestone next door. I wonder if we could somehow do an SBA around Folkestone. So I went next door and I had long conversations with Carlos Gilkes. We did a lot of recce's. We walked around up and down Folkestone. I tried to get an idea from him, what Folkestone was about. And then I formulated the SBA from, looking at Folkestone, looking at their setup, their rules and so on. I spoke with Hazel Oxenford from Surmies as well, got a lot of advice from her. So I ran my ideas with her and she gave me some feedback. She also helped with the photography and the counts and so on in the very first one that we did, so that we knew what we were doing. It was, sticking with certain scientific principles and methodologies. So that was the first time we did it. That was in 2011. And we've done it almost every year since then. It's become quite a good and popular SBA.
The first research project that we did, we went into the reef. We snorkeled and we looked at coral health through quadrat analysis, as well as fish counts. We did fish counts in three areas. So in 4 areas, sorry. 3 of the areas were inside of the reserve. So we did the scientific zone, the northern water sports zone, and the recreational zone inside the reserve. And then we did one outside of the reserve, Heron Bay. We tested water quality of the streams flowing into the reserve. So we went to 3 locations. We went to the lagoon between the 2 hotels, Colony Club and Coral Reef Club. We went to the Whole Town Police Station, as well as the lagoon across from Lime Grove Mall. Yeah, and we tested water quality there. We tested phosphates, nitrates, dissolved oxygen, or coliform bacteria we tested for to see whether the quality of the water was affecting the reef.
We talked especially in depth with Mr. Carlos Gilkes, and he told us a lot about how the reserve is. He told us the strength as well as the weaknesses of the reserve, in terms of the fact that there is a set time that they don't work after that. So in terms of rules and rule breaking, the majority of people coming after hours to break the rules, and that's one of their main weaknesses that they have recognized.
Species like parrotfish, if we could get the fishermen buying into not harvesting parrotfish, we would definitely see a better coral reef. We have suffered because when the pelagic fish such as jacks became unavailable or lessened, the fishermen then turned to potfish, the parrotfish and the grazers to make up, right? So then if they take the grazers off the reef, the algal content is going to be greater. So if you get the fishermen to buy in by not taking the parrotfish and the grazers, it will mean a bit more positive possibilities for the coral reef.
We took Monica Cumberbatch's boat out to the different zones to do the sampling, and Mr. Carlos Gilkes was in the water with us, and he was able to show us the best spots to show us where was particularly healthy or where was just particularly awful.
I spent 20 plus years in Folkestone, and I think we need to get some younger persons being able to come into this kind of setup. We need more conservationists on the West Coast, more younger brains, with different ideas. We need to get them buy-in now, because I actually saw a disturbing trend that by the next 10 years, if we're not careful, we're not going to see some of the major corals that we have on island here now. And like some of the kids, like say 5 years old, will not be able to see some of the corals that I would have seen in my lifetime. So I think that we need to get younger people involved now at this stage, so that we can move from strength to strength and getting the younger generation to really understand coral reefs and the impact on beaches and tourism, everything.
We had kind of divvied up the responsibility. So as my colleague John, he can swim like a boss. So he went down, and that was his responsibility to get the fish counts, to get these really, really nice pictures of the reefs, as well as to help with the quadrats. We also had a professional photographer with us as well to help us with the quadrats. It made it a lot easier.
Russell Watson from our studios, he has been the photographer for the last few years. He's been very enthusiastic and very good about doing that and giving us his services obviously for free.
And the rest of us, ones that can't really swim as well, Ghani life jackets kind of floating. We were kind of in charge of, looking at the surface, what can we see? Is the pollution in the water? Was the quality of the water? This SBA was really in terms of collaboration, a lot of teamwork. Especially, we opened a Dropbox account and everybody put in their information, everything they got. Everybody's SBA was separate, but the information was collaborated, generally the same. But how we interpreted it then was up to us and our discretion.
In the first year, we found that the reef itself was in a quite poor condition.
Reef was popped down, yeah. It was, yeah, it was bad.
In my opinion, I think that we need to look at the water quality. Wastewater and runoff water, those are the two greatest threats to the coral reefs here at Folkestone.
We thought the issue was land-based pollution. So our focus really was mapping out the land usage in the drainage basin of the Folkestone area. The maps that I made for my first SBA came from, the base images came from the Coastal Zone Management Unit, where they had done, I believe they had done flyovers and taken aerial photos of the entire coastline. So we took segments for Folkestone. When I had the aerial photos, what I then did was I very clearly mapped out what types of land use they were. All of this was made using MapMaker Pro 5, which you have a free 30-day trial.
We did ground truthing. We drove, around the water basin, especially inland into the St. Thomas area. We took pictures, we wrote notes of what we saw. So there were, chicken farms, pig farms, a lot of golf courses, as well as horse ranches, and even, the domestic, how many houses were there? This is a very populated area. What's going on? This area may be a mechanic shop, school, and then the turtle waste that they would produce as well. So then after the ground truthing, we come back and then we start drawing our maps. We start kind of saying, okay, based on what we saw, this was going on, then this is the pollution that we expect to come from it, and then this is the amount of impact it's gonna have on the reef. We have to kind of figure out, the mechanic shop was farther away than the pig farm, but the mechanic shop got all this metals and all this oil that's gonna be, really bad. So it was a lot of analyzing and researching what could possibly come from each location. I actually went to the mechanic shop that we would have saw recently, and their behavior, I believe, I don't think is one of change, and I think that's something that really Barbados has to work on. As much as we say, yeah, we want to save the environment, we want to recycle, our behavior doesn't say that.
Coincidentally, the picture that I used to show the chicken farm in my SBA had a big sinkhole at the front of the picture. What do you think comes out of a chicken farm? Chicken farms, well, you get chickens, but you also get waste products from chickens, namely chicken poop. Chicken poop has high levels of nitrates, phosphates, coliforms. It's not very good stuff. And when you wash down your chicken farm, or it rains, that's all going to go down into the sinkholes or down into underwater streams, and that will slowly percolate down into either the groundwater supply, or it'll make its way into rivers, down into the Folkestone area. The nitrates and phosphates can then be an issue where they cause eutrophication, and eutrophication is the process where you get excess nutrients in water bodies, and then algae, they love the nutrients, so they just start growing exponentially. When it dies, it decomposes, and it's this decomposition that, one, uses the oxygen, and two, you can tell that's happening because it pretty much smells like rotten eggs. And we did see a lot of that when we were down at the Whole Town Ho. And we call it the police station Ho. It's a bit south of the Whole Town Ho.
A little later on, there's AgroFest. So I got to actually talk to some of those farmers at AgroFest in relation to their waste and whatnot, and how they do it. The main person I talked to was the dairy farmer, and he told me that it was getting really hard with his cows because of the heat and everything like that. And he doesn't have the resources to kind of manage the waste that he wants to, because he's fighting to make ends meet as it is. As well as I talked to, I think, a chicken farmer as well that she said that she was in the area, and she said that as much as she might want to, feed them organic, more organic food, she realized she really doesn't have the money or the resources to kind of gather all of that and then give it to her chicken. She has to buy the inorganic as well for her plants as well. She has to get the inorganic fertilizers, but she might do a mix, sometimes to say that she incorporated some of the organic stuff, but she has to go and buy. I talked to one of the gardeners at the Coral Reef Club, and what he told me about his pesticide use and fertilizer use is that they try to use as little fertilizer as possible further inland in their hotel, and they don't use anything close to the water. I mean, it's still gonna wash out when the rain comes, but I find that's still an effort, and their pesticides they also use further inland.
The heavy rains would have brought down more sediment,
and it brought the burn that was keeping the holding the water, and it was that we watched some videos, and the water that was coming up was very rapid and very strong. So I wonder really if how much would have been of the waste would have still remained in the lagoon after all of that. It was like a full whole day of rain.
We need to be a bit more aware of the conservation and the right conservationist practices. Like back in the day, I would have seen cuscus grass through all the breakers for the plantations, the side grasses and stuff like that, and those would have stopped most of the debris coming down through the runoff water onto the coral reefs. It would have also filtered off some of the nutrients some of the harmful nutrients that would have made their way into the coral reef and into the west coast coral reef as well. So I think that we need to get the relevant people aware of the cuscus grass and some of these practices that they need to go back to practicing again.
Environmental science was a very hard class, right, for me, because I'm not a science student. I am an art student. My subjects comprised of environmental science, Spanish, and art. I'm not gonna lie, I love the course. I learned a lot, and I am very much more aware of the environment and what's going on. My plan in terms of linking things, I wanted to create art that was environmentally friendly and sustainable.
After the 2 years of having done it, I've become more enlightened as to the importance of environmental science in our daily lives. I really should snorkel more. There's a lot to see, but I guess I get used to just having access to the ocean, and it's only now that I'm going to Canada to study that I'm really going to realize how important the ocean is to me.
So I spent some time at Mona, at UWI at Mona, and I did geography and geology there. One of the things I really liked about that program is with a lot of field work. And I took every chance I had to do field work at Mona, even when it wasn't my year. So I would go and ask, I heard there's a third-year field trip to X and Y place. Can I come? And in that way, I got a lot of field experience. And I therefore try to get that to the students as well. Barbados does spend a lot of money on education, so I can't make a complaint there, but we do have to find our own resources. So all those contacts that I've made over the years, what I try to do is sort of take advantage of people who I've met. So when I go out and I meet somebody, I say, oh wait, you're at this agency, perhaps you can give us some advice on something. So we pull in people. So we've got assistance from Surmies, from Folkestone itself, from Belize, from UWI, for example. We we were very, very fortunate that the UWI at Cave Hill, they've got an outreach program, and they were quite happy to assist Queen's College because we are sort of in their neighborhood, as it were. The experience of using the lab at Cave Hill has actually encouraged some of the students to go to Cave Hill and do their degree, at least part of it, in chemistry. So, I mean, that's kind of a win-win for UE as well, you know, to know that they get a few good students coming in every year from our lot. Dr. Smith actually comes into the lab. She actually supervises the work. So she shows them the procedures, and she supervises them while they do it. So she's very much actively involved with them during the lab work. Professor Oxenford comes in and she gives them a lecture. So she talks to them, and you know, she tells them about her work and her findings on the coral reefs. So they do get to meet a few people. And of course, Carlos Gilkes at Folkestone. I could not do this SBA without Carlos. Carlos is just fantastic. He's very, very, very knowledgeable. He's enthusiastic. He wants people in the water. So one of the things with this field trip is that a lot of the students who go on the trip, they don't know how to swim. Some have never snorkeled before. There are always a couple who are afraid of the water. Now, we get full parental permission. That is one thing for sure. I make sure parents know exactly what we're going to be doing, and they give permission. The students are required to wear life jackets unless, again, their parents give permission not to. And even those who are afraid, by the time we've done the first site visit, they're a little more comfortable in the water. And then by the time we finish the SBA, they're snorkeling around quite happily, most of them. I mean, the one or two still have to hold on to their floats or who still need to have the lifeguard with them. But Carlos and his team are so good at getting those students in the water and getting them comfortable that I definitely couldn't do the field work without them. And again, in terms of Carlos, he has the contacts, he knows the lifeguards, he knows the boat operators, he knows Folkestone inside out.
I was always interested in marine stuff, but I saw an avenue as a lifeguard, and I worked as a lifeguard for I did the training, and then I spent a whole month on the beach of Miami. And I then came into Folkestone as a park naturalist, and seeing some of the species firsthand, looking at them, it left me in awe. So I then kept continuing, kept looking, kept researching. I started to work in Folkestone in 1994. And this was as a park naturalist. And then we had a small speedboat. It was 12 feet long. And on the monotonous days, I used to take it out. And we finished work at 5, and by 6, I used to be still struggling trying to get in. Belize was one of those places that you would have just dreamt of. And when I went there, it literally blew me away. The purpose of the Belize trip was to raise awareness for marine park and marine protected areas. And I think Belize has one of the best working models. So they would have sent us to Belize with a view of getting the marine parks in the Caribbean up to that type of standard. We still have a lot of harmful practices being done at Folkestone and the area, the immediate environs of Folkestone, and we have about 9 or 10 major hotels in this area, right? If we would have the buy-in for the hotels, guest houses, the stakeholders in this area, we can definitely have a positive impact on the coral reef and Folkestone in particular. More coral mean more fish, and the ability for more tourists to actually come to the area to get a better view of Barbados.
What I'm envisioning is that you create sort of a Caribbean-wide program, so that there are certain reserves around the region that the high school students every year are doing
the same.
This.
Oh, all right, the same sort of SBA or the same sort of research at different reserves. So we could have students in Trinidad and Tobago going to Boca Reef. We could have students in Antigua looking at their reefs. We could have Belize. That would be a great idea. And we're all doing the same kind of work, looking at the same parameters, and then we would have a really good, rich set of data at the end. Yes, that's a great idea, Maya.
And then the follow-up of how do you prevent land-based pollution.
Right, yes. And of course the students are full of ideas. This is the thing, we underestimate young people. We don't value them, we don't use, well, I should say use. But yeah, we don't utilize our human resources as much as we can. The young people we have in our region, they're full of ideas, they're full of enthusiasm, they haven't developed the cynicism yet that some of us have developed. They're not tired, they're not fed up with the system. They're young, they're enthusiastic, they've got great ideas. They obviously need guidance and they obviously need resources. They may not know how to get things done. But we need to make more use of our young people. We've got fantastic young people here. You've met two of them just now. And we have so many more all over the region. And not just like schools like Queen's College, huh? There are schools that, every school in Barbados have got these very enthusiastic, very capable young people who we should be making more use of. Yes.
It's worthy to know that right now it's a bank holiday, and the marine reserve is closed. There's nobody working here at this time, and there are so many people here enjoying the beach, enjoying the recreation.
They could be learning.
It's true. They could be learning about the coral, the state of the coral, how it is, and what they can do. Maybe I'm sure some of them are stepping on the coral right now. What they can do to mitigate the deterioration of the reef, and maybe tell them there's actually a recreational zone that they can go in to have fun, but they're literally right here.
But there's no park at the recreational zone. There's a park in the scientific zone, right?
Yeah,
and you can ask, I'm pretty sure any of them, you ask them and they're not going to know that they're in the research area of Belize. They're not going to know that they're in a scientific zone.
Yeah, it's true. Also, I just remembered that there also is only the bathroom is right here at the park, so they will be more encouraged to use the beach right here because of the facilities that are right here, but it's right at the scientific zone, and that is the place that has the most restrictions on what they can do, what they should and what they should not do. Than say the recreational zone, which as the name entails, you would expect them to play and frolic and do whatever
and it's
that
much
they can.
more difficult to get to the recreational zone. There's not really any parking.
Yeah.
And there's nowhere there's no shade really.
So you went in the reef, you saw it's horrible, you realize the pollution is coming from a farm. How do you bring energy into that?
In terms of pollution, you could use all the waste in order to generate energy. So that's what they're talking about, the incinerator. And the biodiesel, biogas, and biodigester. Oh, it's all coming back.
Okay.
If you had said tie that into the agriculture module.
Yeah. Well, tie into agriculture and into energy.
It all ties in.
There's
Yeah.
at McGill Belize, so there's a master's thesis that I read where the student had worked with a few farmers here in Barbados with biodigesters.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is a nice tie-in,
Yeah.
but the question now is the resources to give to these guys, because they're saying that
Really making ends meet.
We also have the Coral Reef Club in Alexandra School, and they actually work with us, as well as St. James Secondary School. So most of the schools in the area, they do know of Folkestone and they know of our efforts. So we try to work hard with them. They do a whole plethora of things dealing with coral reefs and stuff like that. Yeah, and they do go overseas every year. So the first year I went with them to St. Lucia, we went to Marie Isles and we snorkeled on the coral reef in front of Marie Isles.
That's awesome. Is it one teacher who's managing this?
One teacher,
Who's that?
Miss Charlemagne.
Miss Charlemagne is her name?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a St. Lucia name, huh?
Yeah, and she has ties with St. Lucia, so we get to go in. We go to the volcano. We go to the volcano. I think it is, and we do the mud baths and stuff like that. Yeah, we do everything in St. Lucia.
That is awesome. This is Alexander School.
Yeah, this is Alexandra School.
What does she teach there?
She teaches computer sciences.
Are you kidding me?
She actually taught me computer science at University of West Indies. Yeah, she did. Yeah, but I think she's into the sciences at Alexandra too as well. But I think that she's going into the sixth form because some of the schools have been allocated sixth forms. Alexandra has been so too as well. And they're doing tourism management. So I think she's going to be an integral part of that. But she's also into the sciences. But she taught me IT at University of West Indies.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I think there needs to be a way to bring computer science
Into everything.
coral
Yeah.
restoration.
I think that the kids nowadays are more technologically active, and they need to bring the buy into these kind of stuff. Like, you know, I think that they're so good with technology. All the folks like me don't really grasp it easily. It's forced upon us. But with the kids, it's like they're ready to go. Once it's technology and computers, iPads or tablets, they tend to go almost immediately with it.
And which other Caribbean countries are you working in?
I'm also working in Mexico, in the Yucatan area, from Isla Mujeres to Puerto Morelos. That's the Cancun area. And they also have a wonderful example of two of the most well-used public reefs that they replanted 3, 5, and 8 years ago and have really shown to be nice. I'm also working in the Virgin Islands and in Barbados and in Costa Rica, and hope to work in many other places, including the Bahamas and also maybe in the future Cuba.
Could you tell me a little more about Barbados? Like, how special is that, or what do they need to do to, like, is there an enthusiastic group there? Is it just one NGO? What was your experience when you went to visit? I have a lot of Barbadians who, yeah, so something to plug for them.
Well, Barbados is a special island, you know.